Okay, so we're gonna play. So what is it? Two Life is Strange. I've played the most recent Life is Strange. Um, Now, let me preface this by saying, um, I don't necessarily agree with the politics of Life is Strange, and as a Christian, I don't necessarily support the behavior as shown in the video game. But humans are humans, and stories do deserve to be told. That being said, if you don't want to watch, don't watch. It's not anything bad, but take that as you will. I love stories that allow you to choose, that have meaningful changes. I've become very, let me just say, I've become very jaded to what's actually possible in choices. If so, like we look here at Detroit Become Human. Problem with this one is that I don't know. It's kind of hard. Let me show you this way. So we'll go to paths here. So here's a flow chart. That's exactly what I'm looking for, right? Um, and no, that's not what I'm looking for. Basically, you can't change the overall narrative because like the endings don't really change anything. You're always going to end up in the house with Kira. You're always going to, maybe Kira dies early and it just cuts all those scenes, but that's not adding anything by her dying, right? So the narrative, there are a lot of meaningful choices and impactful choices. Realistically, though, it doesn't change the narrative. I think that game would actually be better served without the choices. Hot take. Dispatch, there's two ways to play it. And I just think that I think ultimately, like, choices like that should be, okay, just select, right? Because there's not really, once you break it down, there's two options. You either go Invisigirl or blonde baddie or whatever they call her. And then I'm trying to think of another game that I recently played. You get disillusioned to choice, though. Um, One of the biggest faux pas that a game can make is doing what I call the Deus Ex model, which is give the player tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of limitless choice and make them make all these RPG decisions and you know think about strong and like non-existing ethical problems. And then at the end of the game, you say, okay, now you press two buttons. This button ends at one way. This button ends at the other way. That is so like it's just awful. It takes you from the game. It makes it more of a movie. It's just there's so many bad things about that. That's the biggest faux pas. But the second biggest faux pas is making it seem like there's more choices than there actually are. Um, Gamers aren't stupid. They'll almost immediately find out how many paths your game has. So you can't attempt to like hide some big secret that you don't then deliver on, right? I've seen a lot of games try to do that. Like Myst, for example, is the example of how to handle, walk around and experience the games. With Life is Strange, we're trying to tell a narrative. With Dispatch, certainly we're trying to tell a narrative. With Myst, you're trying to tell a narrative through puzzles, so that they had a little bit of a harder time there. Detroit Become Human is a narrative, but there's only a certain number of choices that are programmable, right? It's normally like two or three decisions. And then of those, the third decision is always not going to be as established. So, because of this understanding, just deal with choices good, evil, neutral, right? I mean, it's a simple um, blueprint that is just the basis of everything else. Ultimately, we go back to Detroit Become Human. While I was playing Detroit Become Human, I was like, oh my goodness, this really could spin. This story could spin like 100 different directions. And then you realize that all those little choices that you made. So the essentially, right. This is what's so beautiful about the game. It's one of the biggest twists I've ever seen is that the baby the kid is also an android, and so these two androids are malfunctioning, believing that they're humans. Right? That's the whole synopsis of that. But prior to that, the emotional roller coaster that you go on, and you can see this in my stream of my playthrough of it. Ultimately was like, yeah, I will do whatever it takes to save this child, because I didn't know that the child was an android. If I had known that the child was an android at the beginning, I don't know, it changes everything. But because I was in the same, train of thought as Kira, I had to save the child. And that kind of stuff is where narrative really, really is powerful. But all the little things that you could do, and you say, oh man, there's like 3 different ways to approach this, and then later they do actually make some changes, and then you're like, wow, it's so impactful. But honestly, Kira's story doesn't even matter in the scheme of things. It's not even like important, right? Whatever happens to her is important, because whatever happens to everyone in times of chaos, it's very important. Immigration laws in safe countries, very important. Lots of other moral quandaries being talked about with the Kira story. Doesn't matter though at all. What that character exists for is for a plot twist, and then for closure for the characters. So I'll take a small break, and then I think we'll go into This Life is Strange. I hope this is 21.9, but I bet it's not.